Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraid Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Rabhavati Naishtaki Vrindraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. So we're reading Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 3rd canto, 26th chapter, titled as Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. Text number 15. So in this chapter, Kapila Dev is explaining to Mata Devhuti about the creation and the creator by a process called as Sankhya Yoga. Kapila Dev explained to Mata Devhuti that the whole material nature exists initially in an unmanifested stage, which is called as pradhana. Now, in this unmanifested state, which is pradhana, there are 24 elements, 24 components of this creation. The whole creation is made up of these 25 basic things. So what are these basic things which is making this whole creation? So this includes 5 gross elements. Now what are these gross elements? So the whole material creation is made up of earth, water, air, fire and ether. Bhumi, Apo, Analo, Vayu. So these are the 5 things. So these are 5 gross elements which can be seen, which can be felt. But then the material creation also has subtle elements which cannot be seen. So the next 5 subtle elements are the smell, the taste, color, touch and sound. These are the 5 subtle elements. So 5 gross elements, 5 subtle elements. Then all the creation also has total 10 indriyas or organs for functioning. These are Gnanendriyas and Karmendriyas. So Gnanendriyas means the organs for the or senses for the knowledge. And what are those? Those are the auditory sense, the sense of taste, the tactile sense, which is touch sense, the sense of sight, looking at it, the sense of smell, and the organs for speaking. And the active organs or the karmendriyas are organs for speaking, organs for working, organs for traveling, organs for generating the population and evacuating. So these are 5 karmendriyas, 5 gnanendriyas. So 5 gross elements, 5 subtle elements, 5 karmendriyas, 5 gnanendriyas. So total 20. And then the next 4 elements are man, mind, buddhi, intelligence, ahankar, false ego, and consciousness. So these are the 4. So total 24 elements, right? So that is explained by Kapil Dev until shloka number 14. Now, Kapila Dev is explaining to Mata Devhuti that there is a 25th element which combines all this together. So these all 24 elements are called as Brahman. Brahman means they are the impersonal form of God. All this creation is also form of God, but it is not everything what Krishna has. So all these elements, 24 elements, are derived from Krishna, but Krishna is beyond these 24 elements. That is why this is called Brahman. And Krishna is there are Brahman, then Paramatma and Bhagavan. So Brahman is the lower stage of understanding of God. Some people understand that the God is creation. Yes, creation is a component of God, but God is something beyond that. So this stage of realization is called Brahman stage. So here Kapila Dev is further explaining to Mata Devhuti and saying that Itavan eva sankhyato brahmana sagunasya cha sannivesho maya prokto yakala pancha vimshakaha. So all these are considered the qualified Brahman. These all 24 elements, they are from Brahman. Now there is 25th element, which is the time. And this time, what does it do is that with the effect of the time, these 24 elements, they come in contact with Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna. Right? So, as of now, all these 24 elements called as Brahman are called Nirguna Brahman, which means it has no mixing with Sattva, Raja, and Tamoguna. But over the period of time, these 24 elements, they come in contact with Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, or Tamoguna. And that is why it becomes Saguna Brahman. So this is the 25th element, which is time. Time, what is it do? As the time progresses, people come in contact, the elements come in contact with the Sattva Guna, Raja Guna, and Tama Guna. And then the creation happens, all the things happen. Brahmaji, when he created, he first created 4 Kumaras, then Rudra came, and from the Rudra came all the Rudra Ganas, which were violent, while the Devi Devatas were in the passion, like that, and then 4 Kumaras in the Rajaguna, Sattva-guna. So like that, the creation over the period of time comes in contact with various elements, Sattva-guna, Rajaguna, and Tamaguna. And then it acquires the qualities according to that. So that is explained by Srila Prabhupada. Now the next shloka is very important. The time factor is explained here. So here the shloka says, Prabhavam paurusham prahu kalam eke yato bhayam ahankara vimodhasya kartum prakrutim iyusha. So here ahankara vimodhasya, this reminds us the shloka from Bhagavad Gita also, where Krishna says that all the living entities under the influence of false ego, they think that they are the doers. That is the ahankara. So here the translation of this sloka is that the influence of Supreme Personality of Godhead is felt in the time factor, which causes the fear of death due to the false ego of the deluded soul who has contacted material nature. So now all these living entities, they are composed of these 24 elements, and then the time is also there in these living entities. And what does this time do? The time is also expansion of Krishna. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I am the time, Kalosmi. So under the influence of time, all the living entities, they come under the mode of guna, sattva guna, raja guna, and tamo guna. And then they think that they are the doers, right? And when you want to be a doer, you want to be a master, you want to take the credit, you want to enjoy everything, then comes the fear of losing, which is death. So the time is perceived by ordinary living entity as death, right? Because over the period of time, everything dies, right? So here is the effect of the time. Time is perceived as death by the living entities. Purport Srila Prabhupada explains, the living entity's fear of death is due to his false ego of identifying with body. Everyone is afraid of death. Actually, there is no death for the spirit soul. But due to the absorption in identification of the body as a self, the fear of death develops. Right? So everybody thinks that I am the Sharira. And the Sharir is a material. Material has a limitation. It comes and goes. But the spirit soul has no end point because it's eternal. But when one identifies oneself with the body, when one thinks that I am the Sharira, I am the body, then the fear of death comes. It is stated in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 11.2.37, Bhayam Dvitiya Abhiniveshatah Syat. Dvitiya means matter, which is beyond the spirit. Matter is the secondary manifestation of spirit. For matter is produced from the spirit. Matter comes from spirit. Spirit doesn't come from matter. So, Supreme Spirit is Krishna, Paramatma. From him, everything is manifesting. Just as material elements described are caused by Supreme Lord or the Supreme Spirit, the body is also product of spirit soul. Therefore, material body is called Dvitiya or the second. One who is absorbed in this second element or second exhibition of spirit is afraid of death. When the living entity identifies and thinks that I am this body, then they think, oh, I'm going to die. Actually, one never dies. It's all the body which is dying. The secondary. When one is fully convinced that he is not the body, there is no question of death, since the spirit soul does not die. If the spirit soul engages in the spiritual activities or devotional service, he is completely freed from platform of birth and death. The spirit soul engages in the service of Krishna, then there is no question of fear, because we know that Krishna, if it is there, then that is the union of Atma with Paramatma, which is called as bhakti or devotional service. When one Atma is under the shelter of Krishna, then Krishna will take care of the Atma. There is no problem. The next position is complete spiritual freedom from material body. The fear of death is the action of Kala or the time factor, which represents the influence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, time is destructive. Whatever is created is subjected to destruction and dissolution, which is the action of time. Time is very nicely explained here that over the period of time, everything dwindles, everything disappears. Sometimes people may think, I am great, I have so much money, I am so much powerful. But over the period of time, all these powerful people have disappeared. Nobody knows where they are, right? So, what is the point in having the ego? Nowadays, people fight over the small things, and they have this egoistic nature. But they don't understand that over the period of influence of time, everything will be finished. Krishna says, Kalosmi. If you do not surrender yourself to Krishna, then Krishna will come to you in the form of death. And then you will have a fear. Most of the people, when they die, they are afraid of death. So their eyes are wide open, their hands are clenched, their mouth remains wide open at the time of death. Some people, they evacuate, they pass urine and stool at the time of death because they are scared of death. Everybody is scared of death, right? Because everybody thinks that I am this body. But when we surrender to Krishna, then there is no question of death. I've seen great devotees like Srila Prabhupada leaving the body. They are peaceful at the time because they know that this body is temporary. It's going to get finished one day or another. And anything associated with the body will be finished. It's not going to last forever. The time is a representation of the Lord, and it reminds us that we must surrender to Lord. Krishna is the time. We must surrender to Krishna. Time is the master of everything. Great fighters also, they lose their strength over a period of time. People like there was one great fighter, Muhammad Ali. He was a great boxing fighter. But then, over the period of time, the time was so powerful that one time he was a world champion. And then, as his age increased, he got a disease called Parkinson disease. And then, he couldn't even stand up. He couldn't walk. The great fighter, the world champion, lost all his strength over the period of time. Because the time dwindles. With the time, everything dwindles. You can't remain strong forever. It's impossible. You can't remain powerful forever. You can't remain on the top forever. Everybody has to give up, right? One day or other. We have seen great kings, great emperors, prime ministers, president. They were powerful once upon a time. But over a period of time, everything disappeared. Now nobody knows where they are, right? So what's the point? So best thing is surrender to Krishna, because Krishna is eternal. Krishna is the time. So why don't we surrender to Krishna? Some people say time management. Actually, time management means use the time for service of Krishna. That is time management. Otherwise, how can you manage time? Time is going on all the time. You can't manage the time. You can use the time. So how do you use the time? Use the time for service of Krishna. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that if someone surrenders unto him, then there is no longer any problem of birth and death. We should therefore accept time factor as the supreme personality of Godhead standing before us. This is further explained in the following verse. So now in the next verse, the time is further explained. So we should all respect time, respect Krishna, and use the time for service of Krishna and not waste the time. Okay? We pause here. Raj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.